Hello, my fellow car modelers. How you doing today? And welcome to another episode of Luka's Builds. And we don't have a model here, do we? Well, there's a reason why. I'm going to start this episode off with a little bit of a backstory first, because it's very important. So I hope I don't bore you. But here we go. It all started back in November of 1985 when I received this in the mail. I was fairly new into getting into the meat and potatoes of hot rodding and cars and getting to know about cars more and more, and Hot Rod Magazine was helping me out. And I had just started building model cars. I've probably been building for about a year. And I got this one in this very issue in the magazines had to offer back in the day. Cool ads, cool top tens. What they thought is you can buy a car for a couple $100. Fairmonts, nobody wanted Fairmont. Moving on, that's what got me started buying hot rod, was this How to Paint series they did, and that's all cool. And there's some cool 80s cars. Remember what was hot in the 80s. But it's the next page we're moving to. This was something that blew my mind. This 57 Chevy. I turned to this page, and I don't know. I always loved 57 Chevys. I've talked about that. But I never seen one like this. And I first read and learned about the Fuelie and basically the Black Widow. The thing that struck me was I looked at this thing. It was cool. Orange 57 Chevy with the steel wheels that are body color. That really got me. But then I had the 55 Chevy Spear, or whatever you'd call that, on the side, which I never had seen that before. This car blew me away. And I saw it had the post. The fact that it was fuel injection. And it was cool. America's first port-injected passenger car. That's what it says right there. That sparked my interest in building a model. Remember, this is November of 1985. So I went wishing I could build a model of that car. Just thought that was cool. AMT had their 57 Chevy. I had already built one. That one I showed you that was in my junkyard. I had built a couple other 57 Chevys from Monogram, but they all were, the hard top. But yet, MPC had a post car. And I thought, well, I'll get that one. But it was done up like a gasser. It wasn't stock. So I wouldn't be able to build this car with that. So I got a hold of the AMT kit, and I got a hold of the MPC gasser. And I did horrible things. Horrible. They'll have them. There it is. There they are. And so I had to put aside my dream of building this orange 57 Chevy. There we go with that. There were resin bodies. Never could get a hold of any. They were kind of expensive and a little intimidating. Years would go by. I wish I could build that model. It would pop in my head here and then. But it was always back there jiggling around. Then all of a sudden, back in 2009, that Revell came to the rescue, and they announced they were coming out with their Black Widow 150. There it was. That car. I had everything to do that model. As soon as it hit the shelves, I ran over to Andy's and picked one up. And I built the model I always wanted to build. This very car. And so here is the finished model. After all those years of wanting to build it, I was finally able to get it done. And boy, was I happy. But it did not come without issues on account of there was a little bit of modifying in the engine department, and not looking ahead. I know you guys are going to see that hood doesn't fit. Something that I always have issues with a lot of my models. I do all these modifications under the hood, and then I don't test fit the hood right. One of these days, again, and I will show you under the hood a little later of what I changed and why I changed it. And also, there's one more thing that I haven't found the correct item to put in there. So this model technically really isn't done. And it was 10 years ago when I built it, I think, at this point. I believe 10 years ago. Good that it took all those years, because I'm sure if I would have built it back in the 80s when I first saw that article, I don't think it would have turned out as nice, even with the hood not fitting. But we'll get to that later. I can always go back and fix it. I even have a few other flaws here, but This was a really fun model to build. It did have its issues as far as the Revell kit that created the notion that I'm probably never going to build this kit again because there was something that was very annoying to me. But all I ever really cared about was this version of a 57 Chevy to be made, so I can live without ever building one again. But it was right here. They had horrific parting lines right on this character line. If you guys are familiar with 57 Chevys, there's this peak or a character line that goes right up here, and the parting line was right there, and it was so hard to sand it without making this whole top of this fender smooth. It was really difficult. But to the color orange, well, that was something that was interesting. You see, when I first saw that picture, that was one of the things that struck me, was it was orange and the orange wheels, and I wanted to build that model of that particular car to the point that, look, it had Hot Rod Magazine license plate in the article, so I had to do it on the model. And I'll tell you what, I had it in my head for a couple of decades of having this orange 57 Chevy. But then, reading the article when I sat down to get ready to build this model, it said that the car was red. Matador red. And I looked up Matador, and I wonder if it was like, how Pontiac had Carousel red was actually orange. And, they always played games like that, GM did. But I looked up Matador red, and it actually is red. It was the printing back then, the way it was printed in the magazine, the dyes that they used, it just transferred to be orange. So there was the dilemma. Do I paint it red if I'm building a replica of the car? Well, what I'm building is a replica of a car that inspired me, of a photograph that inspired me. And that is why I decided to go with the orange, because that was an important part of it. So we went orange. The problem is, and then I go to pick the orange, and I wanted to use something that I already had in my paint reserves, and I had bought a can of Testors Hemi Orange, Modern Hemi Orange, and I wasn't aware of something about Modern Heavy Orange, and it was of their new, at the time, they came out with these factory colors that were lacquers, and I wanted to try those out too. And lo and behold, I go painting it, and it was looking weird. And I noticed up in the roof here, when I got the orange down, I thought it was solvent popping. What it was is there was a little sparklies. What it is, it has a slight metallic to it. Very, very slight. It's so slight that I wouldn't even call it a metallic color. But I don't know if it can be transferred through the video here. If you can see there's little specklets. It's just a very, very light, pretty color, but that wasn't the intention. But I didn't want to strip it down. I had it painted. It was there. I was moving along with this model, and I just went with it. I'm not too unhappy. I like the hue of the orange. It's the perfect orange. Just that little bit of sparkly in there kind of annoyed me. But I move on. Then, after clearing it, I put the decals on that came with the kit, and there was some really, really wonderful Chevrolet script. I liked it. I could have gone with some photo etch, but I thought the decals looked just fine. And once we spin around here, you see there is a really, really cool fuel injection right there. The fuel injection emblem. The decals look really, really good. And once you bury them in the clear, they look awesome. As far as all my chrome, the one thing I wanted to go with, because the actual stuff was more of a stainless steel than a chrome on these cars, that or nickel plated. I know somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong, but whatever. It isn't actually chrome. I wanted to do all the bright work with bare metal foil, but I got matte aluminum bare metal foil. And I tend to like to use that a lot anyways for chrome, because it's not so chrome. I think it looks a lot better. But I have been noticing it was really smooth when I put it on, but this is the bummer about bare metal foil. And by the way, I clear over my bare metal foil, so it's cleared. But it still looks like it's aging and wrinkling or something. It doesn't look as nice as it did when I made this some 8-9 years ago. But anyways, that's it. So I really was staying very basic. It is a detailed model, not over detailed. I put some detail into under the hood, and we'll see that in a moment. But it's just I wanted this thing to be a really super clean build, and I used a lot of painting techniques. So before we get into the engine, I'm going to show you the underside, because I'm pretty proud of the underside. You can't quite see it too well right now, even though I have a mirrored bottom, but let's take a look at it. What do you say? And here we are with the bottom. Nothing spectacular to look at. I kept it simple. It's just paint. There's no any type of extraordinarily crazy detail, but I did everything from putting a little bit of gold or brass on bolts just to show them just different metallizers I like to use, as I've said in the past, different shades of different metallizers just to give contrast and everything. Of course, the bottom was all semi-gloss black. Very simple. Chevy engine orange on that Chevrolet engine, and the whole transmission there. Looks like we have a busted U-joint here. We'll have to fix that later. I think I know why I missed that. About a year ago when I moved into this house, I had to put the rear end back in, and it had busted free. So I'll have to fix that later. But yeah, I never noticed it before. Sorry. I used these fantastic tires. I did not use the tires that were in the kit. That was a couple things I didn't use from the kit that I wasn't pleased with, but the main thing was the tires. I did not like. I'm not really pleased with the type of tires that Revell have been putting out in their latest kits over the past 10 years, 10, 15 years. These are actually AMT tires, which AMT just did these cool, tires of the 50s and 60s, Firestone tires. They looked perfect for this car. They fit perfect. All exhaust, little nuts and bolts, just simple little paint techniques just to do the underside. But I just wanted it to be super clean. I wanted this to be like a show car, not a car that gets driven all the time. And that was that look. And now a look on into the engine. And I don't know if you noticed right away. And I took the hood off, by the way, because on the hood, whoops, sorry for bumping, on the hood, and you can get a good look at that paint with the little speckles in it. But the hood hinges on this kit are horrific. Pretty simple. They try to make them look like real hood hinges. They're not that great, and they do not open up very high. So it's easier to just take that off. But you'll also notice there's something else missing. The battery. I want to put the battery that's in the car in the picture. And that's like an interstate battery, so I've been looking for the perfect battery. If anybody knows a model kit that has a battery that looks like an interstate battery, let me know. I would like to put an interstate battery in there. But all the other stuff, I hand painted that script on the valve covers, did some of my little bit of Model Master paints. This thing right here, it had a different type of air cleaner and all that in that car that was in the magazine. It wasn't the stock one. And of course that's giving me a little bit of problems because it's a little high. And I used like a velocity stack, and I found in a kit, or in the box, in the parts box, a little air cleaner, just a chrome air cleaner that just looked right for that part. I wanted to have, like, on this air conditioning unit, get that sticker on there. I want it to look as real as possible. I added all these tubes and lines and stuff just as they are in the car in the magazine. I just wanted to do that, all that fuel injection and fuel lines and I guess vacuum lines, whatever they had in there, just to give it that look that was in the car, in the pictures. That's my engine. I'm trying to show you the interior because equally concentrated on trying to get it to look as clean and as factory as possible. Good thing I have some still photos that I'm putting up here to show you. Simple, pretty much out of the box, but I just wanted it to be to par on what I did with the rest of the car. So that's pretty much the story of my 57 Chevy 150 two-door Black Widow fuel injected monster that I always wanted to build. It's one of my favorite builds. I do enjoy it. It's starting to show some of the wear over the years, like I said, with the bare metal foil starting to crinkle up on me in a few spots. But I don't care. I like it. It's seen its days. It's gone to a few shows. It's gotten some attention. And I don't care. I built it. It's mine. I enjoy it. I hope you like it. It was a lot of fun. And it's really cool when you get an idea for something and hold on to it for a long time and you finally are able to realize it. And I hope a lot of you guys get to experience that kind of joy in this hobby. That's kind of what this hobby's all about. A whole lot of joy and enjoyment and gratification and being able to express your art. Because that's what this is. And to me, it's my art. I want to thank you guys for tuning in on YouTube to watch this edition of Luka's Builds. We got plenty more coming to you. And be sure to check out my Teespring store for all the shirts and mugs and shirts and things and stuffs. Buy them up. I want to thank my producers, because again, this kind of stuff wouldn't happen without you guys. I want to thank you. And with that, also share, like, and subscribe. But share. Let people know who don't know about this channel. We're growing and we're almost hitting that 10,000 mark. And that's going to be really, really cool. So thanks a ton for watching. You know what I always say? Go out there and build model cars. Why? Because they're fun.